Evan Miles was just a tenant. Lena Walker was just the landlord's wife. But behind the walls of a quiet suburban home, their secret love spiraled into obsession, betrayal, and a night soaked in blood. Dean Walker, the trusting husband, no idea he was living with two people plotting to destroy everything he built. This is the chilling true crime story of how desire turned deadly in a place where nothing was supposed to go wrong. Miles arrived in Arborville on a warm spring afternoon with nothing but a duffel bag and a laptop. His past life had been full of chaos and engagement that ended in betrayal, a job that drained his soul, and a city that never let him breathe. He found an online ad about a room for rent in a quiet suburb. Oh, the price was fair. The house looked peaceful. He didn't ask too many questions. The home was owned by Dean Walker, a 48-year-old man who had inherited the property from his parents. He worked at a local hardware store and handled repairs around the neighborhood. Dean took pride in being the kind of man who followed rules and expected others to do the same. He offered Evan the upper floor private entrance, shared laundry, no noise after 10 p.m. Dean's wife. Lena was 38, graceful and soft-spoken. She wore long skirts and floral blouses, baked fresh bread every weekend, and organized garage sales with handwritten signs. She had been married to Dean for 15 years, but the love had faded into routine. They had no children. Her days felt small at first. Lena barely noticed Evan, but one afternoon, she handed him a bag of fresh cookies. Their fingers brushed. It was small, accidental, but it lingered. Over the next few weeks, their encounters grew more frequent. Evan started helping her carry groceries. He watered the plants while she talked about old movies. They shared glances that lasted too long, smiles that said more than words. Behind the closed blinds of a respectable home, a dangerous spark had been lit. Evan and Lena's secret relationship began slowly. It wasn't planned. It was made of small moments, stolen smiles, quiet footsteps on the stairs, the soft sound of Lena's perfume when she walked by. The thrill made Evan feel alive again. For Lena, it was something more, a sense of freedom she hadn't felt in years. Their affair relied on precision. Dean's schedule was predictable, out by 8 a.m., back by 6:30 p.m., with a stop at the bar every Friday evening. Lena timed their meetings around these windows. Evan left his door open just a crack. Lena slipped inside silently. Their moments were brief but intense. They developed a system. If Lena left a red towel on the clothesline, it meant it was safe. If Evan flicked his bedroom light twice, he needed to delay. They met in the laundry room, in Evan's room, once even in Dean's workshop when he was gone for a weekend. Each time, they promised it would be the last. But the thrill kept pulling them back. Lena started changing. She wore lipstick again. She smiled more. She played music in the kitchen. Dean noticed but assumed it was just a phase. Even praised her for acting like her old self. But he also grew more protective, asking where she went, what time she'd be home, who she talked to. Evan, meanwhile, began feeling the pressure. He barely slept. He kept his door locked at night and his phone hidden, deleted messages and erased call logs. But paranoia crept in. He started to imagine footsteps outside his window and shadows in the hallway. What once felt like passion now felt like danger, and that danger was getting closer. Dean wasn't a fool. His instincts told him something was wrong, even if he couldn't prove it yet. Lena had become distant. Evan had become nervous. Dean started paying attention to the little things on unfamiliar cologne in the hallway, missing tools in his shed, the subtle silence between his wife and his tenant. He decided to act. Dean bought a small hidden camera and placed it in the shared laundry room. He told himself it was for security, but deep down, he knew he was hunting a secret. For a week, he collected footage. Most of it showed nothing unusual. Then, one Thursday night, he saw Lena walk in wearing her nightgown. Minutes later, Evan followed, glancing nervously over his shoulder. They disappeared from frame for 7 minutes. Dean didn't react. He didn't confront. He watched it again. Then again, over the next days, Dean played the role of the calm husband. He made breakfast, kissed Lena goodbye, and shook Evan's hand in the hallway. But beneath the surface, he was unraveling. He began tracking their movements, checking Lena's phone while she slept, installing a GPS tracker in Evan's car. He Found receipts, too, from the same cafe, 5 towns over. He found a duplicate key hidden in a flower pot. He started writing everything down in a notebook he kept locked in his toolbox. Meanwhile, Evan and Lena had no idea they were being watched. They thought their affair was a private secret, complicated but contained. But the storm was already building, and Dean was waiting for the perfect moment to strike. It was raining hard on the night it happened. The clouds, thunder in the distance, and streets slick with water. Evan and Lena had planned it carefully. They would leave Arborville forever. Evan had sold his car, withdrawn cash, and booked a one-way train ticket under a false name. Lena packed a small bag with essentials and left a short note behind. They met at a motel 30 miles away. The room was dim, with old wallpaper and a broken ceiling fan. Evan paced nervously, while Lena sat on the edge of the bed, checking her phone. She tried to call Dean just to say goodbye. He didn't answer. What they didn't know was that Dean had already found them. Using a location app linked to Lena's phone, Dean tracked them to the motel. He drove through the rain in silence, gripping the wheel, the hidden notebook beside him. By the time he reached the parking lot, he had rehearsed a dozen ways it could go. None of them ended with peace. He found their room. The door was slightly ajar. Inside, Evan turned just as Dean burst in. What followed was chaos, yelling, shouts, the sound of glass breaking. The lamp fell. Blood splattered across the faded carpet. Evan was thrown into the corner. Alina screamed and disappeared into the night, barefoot and crying. Guests called 911. Police arrived minutes later. They found Dean outside the room, bleeding from a gash in his hand. Inside, Evan was unconscious. Lena was gone. Dean was arrested on the spot, but he said only one thing. I warned them. The story exploded across the local news. Neighbors were shocked. The quiet house on Willow Lane, the respectable landlord, the sweet wife, the reserved tenant, none of it made sense. But the truth was worse than gossip could imagine. Evan survived after 2 surgeries. He had a fractured skull, broken ribs, and a punctured lung. While recovering, he gave a full statement, admitted to the affair, the escape plan, and how Lena wanted to start a new life. But he also claimed that she grew distant weeks before. The motel incident, cold, hesitant, and secretive. Lena was found 4 days later. She had taken shelter in an abandoned mobile home outside a small town. When police found her, she was wearing Dean's old sweatshirt and holding a photo of her wedding day. Her story added a twist. She claimed Evan had pushed her into the affair, promising love and freedom, she said. Dean had become controlling but insisted she never wanted violence. Investigators struggled to separate fact from manipulation. Some believed Lena used both men. Others said she was a victim of her circumstances. What was clear was this. The affair had been built on deception, loneliness, and desperation. Dean was sentenced to 15 years for attempted murder. Evan moved back to his hometown and tried to rebuild his life, but he never recovered from the guilt and trauma. Lena disappeared completely. Rumors claimed she changed her name and started over in another country. Others believed she returned to Arborville under a different identity. In the end, all 3 lives were ruined. What started as a quiet rental agreement turned into a deadly love triangle that shocked a town and left behind a trail of betrayal, secrets, and irreversible consequences.